You can have almost identical latency numbers in Tarkov, and the game can still feel completely different. Today, we're testing if smooth motion actually changes responsiveness, or if it just changes how the game feels. To quickly explain what's going on screen, we have a few different indicators. So starting from the top, we have FPS, then we have CPU utilization, RAM utilization, and GPU utilization, as well as frame times. And then the only other number that we're really looking at is the bottom, and you can see LAT, that is our latency, and that is kind of the basis for the test today. Now, we're going to be looking at the difference in latency between smooth motion on and off. So what is smooth motion? Smooth motion is basically NVIDIA's driver level frame smoothing frame generation technology. It's super cool, but although it does make the game look a lot smoother, people really care about raw frame consistency, mouse feel, responsiveness, so that's exactly what we're going to look into. Here is some baseline gameplay with smooth motion turned off. And what I can notice is in normal movement, aiming, and tracking, although it feels weird with the low FPS, it does feel responsive. It feels raw in a sense, and it is choppier, but you don't have any weird shimmering during movement, which is nice. Moving into some smooth motion gameplay, here what I can really tell the difference is in long range engagements. I actually streamed my entire testing. I was playing for about 4 hours with some friends. You can check out the live stream down below. But what I noticed while I was playing is that when I'm aiming down scopes in a long range engagement, it is the most telling with smooth motion. When you're aiming down a scope with 80 FPS, trying to win a gunfight, it is a little bit tougher than when you have 220 when you're using like a 1x scope compared to like an 8x scope. So I found it a lot better to have smooth motion on in those long range engagements. It honestly felt like an advantage. It was easier to track, it was more fluid, and overall kind of just better. Now, that's not to say that smooth motion didn't have any downsides. I did notice shimmering, I did notice some weird motion when moving left to right. It kind of felt like my scope wasn't exactly stable, and there was times where I could just tell that there was a bit of a buffer in between the game's engine and my movements. It was very, very hard to notice though, and that shows in the data as well. We were testing for a long extended period of time. Now, we weren't looking at all of the latency indicators, so yes, there's a little bit of better information that I could be giving here, but here you can see the latency and it is very low. Now, this is with a 9800X 3D, a 5070 Ti, and 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM, so this is kind of a best case scenario. It's really hard to say, oh, your smooth motion is going to feel exactly the same. But for me, within 1 to 2 milliseconds of latency is kind of crazy. And it's really hard to say, don't use smooth motion, because I could not tell a difference with the input latency. I was doing this test with a friend in Discord as well, and he said the exact same thing. He was getting 100, 120 FPS on customs, not really feeling super good. I said, hey, give smooth motion a try. And he was actually watching the stream, hopped in, and he's like, wow, this feels so much better. So I think it's something that is definitely worth trying. And to be scared of input latency, my last video, I wasn't sure how the input latency was going to affect people looking into this. It really seems like it's worth trying, that's for sure. Especially if you have a good base FPS, it's gonna help. Another good indicator of this is looking at the frame times as well, and they are butter smooth. Maybe on a map like Streets of Tarkov where there's a lot more variables. We were playing online during these raids as well, so it's not like we were playing offline and everything was like a controlled environment. No, we were playing live. We were playing on customs during the event where all the scabs had like super high tier loot, so everyone's fighting. And I really tested it in a real world scenario, and that's why I feel a lot more confident saying, yes, use smooth motion. Now, I was also not using an FPS cap. That's something that you could test with, and you might get a little bit more consistency depending on your setup. But just for this testing, I had no G-Sync, no V-Sync, no FPS cap, nothing. I was just doing smooth motion off and smooth motion on just to see the difference between the two. For me personally, I am going to be using smooth motion for the foreseeable future. The only thing I might be messing with is the G-Sync, V-Sync, and FPS cap, but for right now, I'm actually not going to be changing any of that. Honestly, smooth motion just felt way better in scoped fights. It felt better at ranged combat, again with the scopes. the latency difference was tiny, like very hard to measure. I know there are other latency measurements and markers that you can look at, so that's something I want to look at in the future. I do feel like smooth motion probably does add maybe 5 or 10 possibly milliseconds of latency system wide. But from the testing here, what I could see, and with the frame times and the latency indicator, it's not much. As long as you have a good base frame rate, if you're getting over 100 FPS in Tarkov, it's probably going to be hard to tell if you have smooth motion on or off just from a latency perspective. Obviously, the game's going to look a lot smoother and feel a lot smoother. The visual experience is going to be better. So that's why I'm going to be running it for now. But yeah, do you guys use smooth motion? Do you guys find it helpful? It seems like everyone's on that stuff. I know Landmark posted a short on like how to use smooth motion in Tarkov, and it got like 1 million views or something. So it seems like a lot of people are interested in it. I know AMD has a version as well, which is AMD Fluid Frames. So you can go ahead and check that out as well. I'm not sure if it's as good as smooth motion when it comes to latency, but it seems like it's pretty good as well. So yeah, you guys using it on or off? And what should we test next? I guess that's the question, right? Thanks for watching. Peace.